Do you realize that the greatest battles of your life are often decided in the quiet moments before you close your eyes? Science confirms that your subconscious is most open in the final minutes before sleep. Whatever you feed it in that sacred window becomes the blueprint of your tomorrow. And yet, most people waste those moments scrolling, worrying, or rehearsing fear. But here lies the mystery. One word, just a single hidden word, can rewrite your destiny if you dare to repeat it in faith each night. It is not about shouting, not about impressing others, but about planting a secret seed that only you and God know. Seeds do not shout. They grow in silence. And when their time comes, they break the ground for all to see. I want you to imagine this. The very word you whisper tonight may become the testimony that transforms your life tomorrow. That is why this message is not casual. It is urgent, because your future is waiting for the word you decide to carry into the night. Type breakthrough in the comments, like this message, and share it with someone you love, because your breakthrough could unlock theirs. There is a mystery many people overlook. The last words you speak before you close your eyes at night have the power to shape your tomorrow. Your final thoughts, your final declarations, your final whispers become the blueprint that your mind and spirit meditate on while you sleep. Sleep is not just rest for the body. It is the workshop of the soul. It is in that silent chamber of the night that your words become seeds planted deep into the soil of your subconscious. And from that soil, life either flourishes or withers. Think about this. When a farmer plants a seed, he covers it in darkness. He does not leave it exposed for everyone to see. It is hidden beneath the soil, watered in silence, and nurtured away from the eyes of men. Your words before sleep are like that seed. They may seem small, even insignificant, but once spoken, they descend into the fertile ground of your spirit and begin a process you cannot see. That is why the last word you release before sleep carries extraordinary power. It determines what you reap when the light of morning returns. Science now confirms what Scripture and wisdom have always known. Neuroscientists have discovered that the final thoughts before sleep are rehearsed and replayed by the brain throughout the night. If you fall asleep rehearsing fear, your body wakes up in anxiety. If you sleep rehearsing failure, your day is filled with hesitation. But if you speak a word of faith, hope, and life before your head rests on the pillow, your entire being aligns with that declaration while you sleep. The brain does not go silent at night. It continues to fire, to build pathways, to strengthen what you impressed upon it. In other words, your words become the construction material for tomorrow's reality. This is why ancient wisdom warned against careless speech. It is not only about what you say in daylight, it is about what you whisper in the midnight hour. There is a reason prayers before bed are sacred. There is a reason parents have always spoken blessings over children before they sleep. There is a reason kings and prophets of old meditated on the word before laying down, because they understood sleep is not just the absence of activity, it is the continuation of creation. Imagine two people. One goes to bed every night whispering complaints. I am so tired of my life. Nothing ever changes. I will never succeed. Those words descend into the soil of their soul, and night after night they are watered with negativity. Soon they wake up exhausted, heavy, and hopeless, because their subconscious has been programmed with despair. The other person, however, chooses a different seed each night. They whisper a single word: peace, abundance, healing, or victory. They fall asleep with that word on their lips, and as they sleep, their mind and spirit align with the vibration of that word. Over time, their days begin to shift. Opportunities appear, relationships heal, health improves. Was it magic? Number, it was the hidden law of words and the soil of sleep. A powerful example can be seen in the life of Florence Chadwick, the swimmer who attempted to cross the English Channel in 1952. On her first attempt, fog and fatigue overwhelmed her, and she quit just a half mile from shore. But she trained her mind differently the second time. Before every night leading up to the attempt, she spoke and visualized, "I will finish." When she entered the water again, the fog was just as heavy, but her mind was anchored in her final words each night. This time, she reached the shore. Her victory was not born in the water. It was born in the silence of her declarations before sleep. Your words before sleep are the compass of your destiny. They set the tone for your dreams, your subconscious processing, and your emotional atmosphere. That is why you must be intentional. Do not let your last words be careless chatter. Do not let them be filled with worry or regret. Instead, choose a word that aligns with your divine future, and let that be the final sound your spirit carries into the night. For in the silence of sleep, your words live on, shaping the unseen and preparing the visible. Every powerful seed begins in silence. The greatest mistake many people make when they receive a revelation, a vision, or a divine word is that they immediately announce it to others. But what is planted in your heart should not be prematurely exposed to careless ears. Some things are not meant to be shared, they are meant to be hidden until their appointed season. That is why the instruction is clear: repeat the word before you sleep. But tell no one. Why this secrecy? Because the most fragile stage of any vision, dream, or declaration is at the beginning. When a seed is just placed in the soil, it is most vulnerable. If someone were to dig it up and handle it carelessly, it would never grow. In the same way, when you release your private word to others, you expose it to their doubts, their criticisms, their fears, and even their jealousy. Words carry power, but so do the words of those around you. A single negative comment can poison the faith you are trying to build in silence. Look at the life of Joseph. He had powerful dreams from God, visions of leadership and destiny. But in his youthful innocence, he told his brothers. What happened? They despised him, envied him, and sold him into slavery. His dream was real, but his mistake was premature exposure. His word was true, but it was not yet time to share it. Though God still fulfilled it, Joseph learned the hard way that some visions must be protected in silence until they are strong enough to stand against opposition. The same principle applies to the word you repeat before you sleep. It is not a slogan for social media. It is not a phrase to casually discuss with friends. It is a sacred seed, and seeds grow best in hidden soil. When you whisper it to yourself at night, you are nurturing it in the safe chamber of your spirit. But when you tell it prematurely, you hand it over to people who may not understand, who may mock it, or worse, who may project their unbelief onto it. Modern psychology calls this the social reality trap. Studies show that when people announce their goals or intentions too soon, they experience a false sense of accomplishment. By talking about it, their brain registers a reward, and their motivation decreases. In other words, speaking too soon tricks your mind into believing you've already achieved something, and as a result, you stop working on it with the same intensity. Silence, on the other hand, keeps the fire alive. It keeps the word burning privately, forcing you to nurture it until the fruit becomes undeniable. Think about a pregnant woman in the first trimester. She rarely announces her pregnancy to the world. Why? Because it is the most delicate stage. The seed of life is still forming, and exposure to stress, criticism, or negativity can be harmful. Only when the child is strong enough to survive outside pressure does she announce it with confidence. The same wisdom applies to your word. Until it has matured inside you, it is safer hidden in silence. History is filled with people who understood this principle. Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb, conducted thousands of experiments before success. Yet during his early trials, he shared little. Why? Because the voices of critics could have discouraged him before the breakthrough came. Walt Disney was told repeatedly that his vision of Disneyland was foolish. If he had told more people in the fragile beginning, He might have abandoned it altogether. But by nurturing it quietly, he allowed it to grow strong enough to silence the doubters. Even in Scripture, we find that when Jesus healed people, he often instructed them, "Tell no one." Why would he say that? Because there is a time to testify, but there is also a time to protect. Some miracles are too sacred to be placed in the hands of cynics. Some revelations must be kept between you and God until they are undeniable. So when you repeat the word before you sleep, resist the urge to share it. It may feel exciting to announce, but the power of your word is not in publicity. It is in secrecy. Keep it hidden. Guard it as a treasure. Let it grow in the womb of your spirit, watered by repetition and faith. In due season, when the fruit has appeared, it will announce itself. People will see the evidence without you ever needing to explain. Silence is not weakness. It is strategy. It is the wisdom of the farmer, the patience of the expectant mother, and the discipline of the visionary. Protect your word in silence, and one day that word will protect you in victory. If you observe life carefully, you will notice a simple truth. Whatever you repeat, you reinforce. Whatever you reinforce, you believe. And whatever you believe, you eventually become. Repetition is not just a habit. It is the system by which the human mind, spirit, and body are programmed. That is why repeating a single word before sleep is so powerful. It is not superstition. It is not empty ritual. It is the science of the spirit, the divine law of reinforcement. The mind was designed to learn through repetition. When you were a child, how did you learn the alphabet? Not by reading it once, but by singing it again and again until it became a part of you. How did you learn to walk? By falling and standing, over and over, until your body memorized the rhythm. Even now, how does an athlete reach mastery? Through drills, practiced endlessly until the body performs without hesitation. The same principle applies to your spirit. A word repeated consistently becomes etched in the deepest chambers of your soul until it shapes your identity and directs your future. Science confirms this truth. Neurologists have discovered that repetition literally rewires the brain. Each time you repeat a thought or a word, neurons fire together, creating pathways. The more those pathways are traveled, the stronger they become. This is known as neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to adapt and reshape itself. In simple terms, your brain is not fixed. It is programmable. And repetition is the code you use to program it. That means when you repeat a single word of faith, hope, or destiny before you sleep, you are literally carving new grooves into your brain, making it easier for your life to align with that reality. This is why advertising works. Why do companies spend billions repeating slogans and jingles? Because they know if you hear something enough, you will not only remember it, you will believe it. Just do it. I'm loving it because you're worth it. You don't even have to think hard. The words surface automatically because repetition wrote them into your subconscious. If repetition can make you buy shoes or hamburgers, imagine what it can do when you apply it intentionally to your destiny. The ancients understood this well. That is why meditation has always been linked to repeating sacred words. It was not mindless chanting. It was the discipline of impressing truth onto the spirit until it became a living reality. In the book of Joshua, the instruction was clear. Meditate on this word day and night. Why? Because meditation is not casual reading. It is focused repetition. It is taking a word and rehearsing it until it becomes flesh in your life. Consider the story of Muhammad Ali, the legendary boxer. Long before he became a champion, he kept repeating one phrase, "I am the greatest." He said it when he was unknown. He said it when he was ridiculed. He said it until his mind, body, and spirit aligned with it. Decades later, when the world recognized him as one of the greatest athletes of all time, his confession had already paved the way. His greatness was not born in the ring. It was born in his repeated declaration. Or, think about Thomas Edison, who failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. Each failure could have convinced him to stop, but he repeated the effort again and again until success bowed to persistence. Repetition is not just about words. It is about action, thought, and confession aligning until reality bends to consistency. Now, let's connect this to sleep. Repetition before bed is uniquely powerful because it is the final impression on your spirit. Before the subconscious takes over at night, the conscious mind rests, but the subconscious continues to work. That is why dreams feel so vivid. They are the language of the subconscious. And the subconscious is most influenced by repetition. If you go to bed repeating fear, fear is magnified. But if you go to bed repeating faith, faith takes root and grows while you sleep. There's a proverb that says, sow a thought, reap an action, sow an action, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a destiny. Repetition is the bridge between the thought and the destiny. It turns fragile ideas into unshakable identities. That is why the word you repeat at night must be chosen carefully. It will not just visit your mind, it will occupy your life. Repetition is proof of desire. If something matters to you, you don't say it once and forget it. You whisper it until the heavens hear it. You repeat it until your spirit owns it. You rehearse it until your very presence carries it. The spiritual science of repetition is simple. What you repeat consistently becomes your reality inevitably. So guard your word, repeat it faithfully, and let the unseen power of consistency build your tomorrow while you sleep. For repetition is not weakness. It is the secret weapon of those who refuse to let their destiny slip away. There is something mysterious about the night. When the sun sets, when the noise of the day grows silent, and when the world finally rests, the spirit world becomes more evident. The night is not just the absence of light. It is the hour of unseen activity. What you do, think, and say at night carries a weight that daytime cannot match. That is why the instruction to repeat a word before you sleep is not casual advice. It is a profound spiritual strategy. Throughout history, the night has been recognized as a sacred window. Kings received dreams at night. Prophets heard God's voice at night. Scientists discovered solutions in the quiet of the night. Even battles were often determined by what was conceived in the dark. Why? Because the night strips away distractions. In the day, your mind is pulled in every direction, emails, conversations, obligations, noise. But in the night, silence returns. And in that silence, the spirit is more open, more receptive, more sensitive. Consider the story of Samuel. As a boy, he heard the voice of God calling his name in the middle of the night. Why didn't God speak in the bustle of the day? Because the night carries stillness. And stillness is the womb of revelation. The same principle applies to Jacob, who wrestled with the angel at night. It was in the dark hours that his identity was transformed from Jacob, the deceiver, to Israel, the prince. Again and again, we see that night is not an empty space. It is a holy stage where destinies are shifted. Science quietly agrees with this mystery. Psychologists tell us that before sleep, the brain moves into a state called theta, a deeply relaxed frequency. It is the same state children live in during early childhood, which is why they absorb information so easily. In theta, the mind is impressionable, suggestible, open. That means whatever you speak or meditate on during those moments before sleep has direct access to your subconscious. You are literally programming yourself for tomorrow. And the most effective time to do it is at night in silence, when the door to your deeper mind is open. But there is another side to this. The night is not only the season of revelation, it is also the season of warfare. Darkness often symbolizes battles unseen. Fear intensifies at night. Worry seems louder at night. Temptation lurks stronger at night. Why? because the enemy also knows the spiritual potency of the night. If he can influence your thoughts before you sleep, he can poison your dreams, drain your strength, and sabotage your next day. That is why people who go to bed with unresolved anxiety often wake up exhausted. Their spirit fought battles while their body was asleep. This is why repeating a single powerful word before sleep is so vital. It is not just meditation, it is armor. It sets the tone for the night, covering your mind, protecting your spirit, and sealing your atmosphere. When you declare peace is before bed, anxiety cannot invade. When you whisper healing, sickness loses ground. When you repeat victory, defeat has no permission to linger. You are not just preparing for rest. You are positioning your spirit for triumph. History offers profound examples. Napoleon Bonaparte, the great general, once said that the night was more powerful than the day because in the night, armies march and kings decide. His point was simple. What happens in darkness determines what unfolds in daylight. Even in modern times, entrepreneurs, artists, and innovators confess that their greatest ideas came in the night hours. In fact, Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb, worked deep into the night because he believed the silence unlocked creativity. But beyond creativity lies spirituality. In Scripture, Jesus often withdrew at night to pray. He chose those hours intentionally. The crowds were gone. The noise was gone. The only thing left was intimacy with God. And in those nights, strength was renewed for the mission. If Jesus himself found the night sacred, then surely we must also honor its power. So understand this. When you whisper your word before sleep, you are not just practicing repetition. You are aligning yourself with the deepest currents of the spirit world. You are planting a seed in the soil of silence where distractions cannot uproot it. You are stepping into the holy pattern of prophets, leaders, and visionaries who understood that the night is never empty. It is the most spiritual season of all. This is why you must take the night seriously. Don't end your day with idle words. Don't close your eyes with complaints or arguments. Don't let fear be your final conversation. Instead, honor the mystery of the night by sealing it with a word that directs your destiny. For the night is sacred. It is the secret classroom of the soul. And what you whisper in its silence will echo loudly in the light of day. If words are seeds, then the word you choose to plant before you sleep determines the harvest you will see in your life. Not every word carries the same weight. Some words build, others destroy. Some words give life, others drain it. That is why you cannot repeat just anything at night. You must choose carefully, because the word you whisper in the silence of the night is not just sound. It is spirit in ancient wisdom. Names were never random. Words were never casual. They were chosen with precision because they carried destiny. When parents named their children, they weren't simply labeling them. They were declaring their future. Abram became Abraham, meaning father of many nations. Jacob became Israel, one who wrestles with God and prevails. Simon became Peter, the rock. Each transformation was marked by a change in word, and that word became the key to a new identity. If one name could shift an entire destiny, how much more powerful is the word you repeatedly plant in your soul every night? So how do you choose the right word? You don't select it by emotion or impulse. You choose it by alignment. The right word is one that aligns with God's purpose for your life, one that reflects the future you desire, and one that carries the weight of truth. For example, if you are battling sickness, your word might be healing. If you are surrounded by confusion, your word might be peace. If you are facing financial struggle, your word might be provision. The key is that your word must not describe your current reality. It must declare your desired destiny. Too many people make the mistake of repeating the wrong word. They go to bed whispering failure, lack, or fear. They reinforce their bondage with their own lips. But the wise understand that you must not echo your problem. you must declare your promise. If your life feels empty, don't repeat loneliness. Speak love. If your path feels blocked, don't whisper impossible. Declare breakthrough. Your word is not a mirror of what is. It is the seed of what shall be. There is a fascinating study from Emory University that shows how the brain responds to positive versus negative words. Negative words trigger the amygdala, releasing stress hormones and shutting down higher reasoning. Positive words, however, activate the frontal lobe, increasing problem solving and creativity. In simple terms, your brain literally functions differently depending on the words you choose. This is why your nighttime word matters. The word you choose before sleep can either lock your mind in fear or unlock it for possibilities. A story is told of a man named James Allen, who wrote the classic book As a Man Thinketh. He was not a wealthy man, not a famous man, but he discovered the secret of words and thoughts. Every night, he chose words like peace, purpose, and abundance. Over time, those words rewrote his life, turning him into one of the most influential thinkers of his time. His writings have transformed millions because he understood this truth. The right word, chosen and repeated faithfully, is the key that unlocks heaven's potential in your life. The Bible reinforces this principle. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Notice, it does not say death and life are in the power of circumstances or enemies or luck. It says they are in the power of the tongue. That means the word you choose at night can either release life into your future or death into your potential. The choice is yours. Think of it this way. If a farmer has 2 seeds, one of wheat and one of poison, what happens if he plants the poison? It will grow even though he may have wished for wheat. The soil does not discriminate. It simply produces what is planted. Your spirit is the same. It will grow whatever word you plant before sleep. That is why choosing the right word is not optional. It is essential. So pause and ask yourself, what is the one word my soul needs to hear tonight? What is the single word that, if repeated consistently, would shift the atmosphere of my life? Don't rush. Don't choose lightly. Find the word that aligns with heaven's promise for you. For that word, when whispered in the night, becomes a key. And when heaven hears it consistently, doors open that no man can shut. The right word carries weight. It unlocks strength in weakness, clarity in confusion, courage in fear, and hope in despair. It becomes more than a sound. It becomes a sword. And with it, you cut through the darkness of the night and open the way for the light of morning. Sometimes the most powerful truths are not found in long speeches, but in single words. A single word whispered faithfully at night can redirect an entire destiny. History, scripture, and real-life testimonies are filled with examples of people whose lives shifted because they anchored themselves to one word. This is why the instruction is so profound. Repeat a word before you sleep and tell no one. That word, though small, carries the ability to transform the course of your life. Consider the story of Nelson Mandela. During his 27 years in prison, stripped of freedom, comfort, and family, he could have surrendered to despair, but he chose a single word that sustained him: freedom. He repeated it in his thoughts, in his prayers, in his silence. Freedom became his anchor. Even when his body was confined, his spirit was liberated. And when the day of release came, the world witnessed that he had not only found freedom for himself, but unlocked it for an entire nation. His life proves that one word, held faithfully through the night seasons of life, can birth transformation not just for an individual, but for generations. Think also of the woman with the issue of blood in Scripture. For 12 long years, she suffered. Doctors failed her. Resources drained. Hope seemed gone. But she anchored herself to one word: healing. She said to herself, if I can just touch the hem of his garment, I will be healed. That one word consumed her until it moved her to action. And in a single moment, Her 12 years of pain were reversed because she had rehearsed healing in her spirit until it became her reality. Modern testimonies echo this truth. In 2011, a study was conducted on patients recovering from major surgery. Those who repeated affirming words like strength, healing, or peace before sleep reported faster recovery times and lower anxiety compared to those who did not. Why? Because their bodies aligned with their declarations. The subconscious heard the word and instructed the body to respond. What medicine could not accelerate, a word spoken in faith empowered. I once read the testimony of a man who had lost everything in financial collapse. He was buried in debt, humiliated, and tempted to give up. But every night before closing his eyes, he whispered one word, provision. He refused to tell anyone because he knew they would laugh at him. But he whispered it faithfully, night after night, provision. Within a year, opportunities opened. He rebuilt his career. He restored his dignity. Today, he testifies that it all began with a single hidden word, repeated in silence before sleep. Even athletes and performers use this principle, though many don't recognize its spiritual depth. Serena Williams, one of the greatest tennis champions, confessed that she would repeat one word to herself before tournaments. Win. That one word became her focus, her anchor, her identity. She spoke it until it shaped her mindset, and her mindset carried her to victory. Repetition of one word built resilience when fatigue or doubt threatened to overwhelm her. What makes these stories so powerful is not just the word itself, but the faithfulness with which it was repeated. A single drop of water seems insignificant, but when it falls in the same place day after day, it carves stone. Likewise, one word may seem too small to matter, but when whispered in faith night after night, it reshapes the landscape of your life. There is also a mystery in secrecy. When you tell no one your word, you protect it from mockery and contamination. Think of Hannah, the mother of Samuel. She prayed silently, lips moving, but words unspoken. The priest thought she was drunk because her prayer was hidden, but God heard her, and the fruit of her silence was a prophet who changed a nation. Some of the greatest miracles are born from words spoken in silence, shielded from the voices of doubt. Your transformation does not require an army of words. It does not require long speeches or endless arguments. It requires a single word, chosen with wisdom, repeated with faith, and protected with silence. That one word becomes your anchor in storms, your compass in confusion, your shield in fear, and your seed for tomorrow. So learn from these stories. Don't underestimate the power of one word. Freedom, healing, provision, victory, peace, whatever word you need. Choose it, repeat it, hide it, and watch as the word you whispered in the dark becomes the reality you live in the light. The power of repeating a word before you sleep is not only in the word itself, it is in your ability to keep it hidden and to practice it faithfully. Two principles make this strategy unshakable: secrecy and consistency. Without them, the seed of your word can be stolen or left unwatered. With them, it becomes unstoppable. Let's begin with secrecy. Why tell no one? Because not everyone deserves access to the seed God has planted in you. Some people carry doubt, others carry jealousy, and others simply cannot understand what you are doing. If you expose your word too soon, you give outsiders the power to contaminate it. Seeds do not grow in the open. They grow buried in soil, unseen, protected from harsh elements. In the same way, your word grows best in silence. Jesus himself taught this principle when he said, "Do not cast your pearls before swine." What he meant was this: there are treasures that should not be exposed to people who will not value them. Your word is a treasure. Whisper it in your spirit, guard it like a secret garden, and allow it to grow quietly until its fruit is undeniable. Think of Joseph in Scripture. As a young man, he received dreams of greatness. But when he told his brothers, envy rose, and they sold him into slavery. What was meant to be celebrated was attacked because it was spoken too soon. If Joseph had kept his vision hidden, perhaps his journey would have been smoother. Your silence is not weakness, it is wisdom. Protect the word God has given you. Now let us speak of consistency. A word whispered once has little power, but a word whispered night after night builds momentum. Consistency turns repetition into transformation. It is like exercise. Lifting a weight one time will not change your body, but lifting it daily will reshape your strength. The same is true spiritually. When you whisper your chosen word faithfully, night after night, it begins to write itself into your subconscious, your beliefs, your behavior, and eventually your reality. Consider Daniel, who prayed 3 times a day without fail. His consistency was so powerful that even when a law was passed to silence him, he refused to stop. That discipline made him unshakable in the lion's den. Consistency builds resilience. It teaches your spirit to stand firm even when circumstances contradict your word. There is a scientific truth here as well. Neuroscientists talk about neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself through repetition. Every time you repeat a thought or a word, you strengthen the neural pathway that supports it. Over time, what began as an intentional effort becomes second nature. If you repeat peace every night before sleep, your brain begins to default to peace instead of panic. If you whisper victory, your mind starts seeing opportunities instead of obstacles. Consistency makes your word not just something you say, but something you become. Stories throughout history confirm this. Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb, failed over 1,000 times before succeeding. What kept him going? A consistent belief anchored in one word, light. He repeated it to himself, worked tirelessly toward it, and refused to surrender until the light he imagined became the light we all enjoy today. His story proves that when a word is repeated consistently, it eventually manifests. Secrecy and consistency also work hand in hand. Secrecy keeps the word safe from external doubt. Consistency nurtures it from within. Imagine planting a seed in the ground. If you expose it by digging it up, it will never grow. But if you leave it hidden and water it daily, it will break the soil in due time. Likewise, your whispered word must remain buried in secrecy while being watered by your nightly consistency. So understand this truth. You do not need to tell anyone. You do not need applause. You do not need validation. All you need is discipline. Discipline to whisper your word every night. Discipline to protect it from doubters. Discipline to keep going, even when nothing seems to change, because change is happening silently beneath the surface. And when the time is right, the word you have guarded and repeated will bear fruit in your life for all to see. Secrecy is protection. Consistency is power together. They are the womb where your word is conceived, nurtured, and brought to life. Master these two, and no force on earth or in hell can stop what God has planted within you. There is a mystery woven into the fabric of life. What is whispered in the dark eventually manifests in the light. The unseen always becomes the seen. Seeds hidden underground rise into harvest. Tears shed in silence turn into testimonies. And the words you whisper faithfully, secretly, consistently before you sleep, God does not ignore them. He stores them, He waters them, and in His perfect timing, He rewards them openly. Faith at its core is the ability to believe in what no one else can see. It is not faith if it is already visible. Whispering a word in the night, telling no one, and trusting that God hears is the highest form of faith. You are saying, Lord, I do not need validation. I do not need confirmation. I believe that you who hear in secret will reward me in public. That is hidden faith. And hidden faith is powerful faith. Scripture declares, "Your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you openly." Notice the pattern. Secret first, then reward. Whisper first, then manifestation. Faithful in the dark, then honored in the light. This is the divine order. And this is why the instruction to repeat a word before sleep and tell no one is so significant. It positions you for heaven's reward. Think of Sarah, who laughed in her heart when God promised her a child. Her laughter was silent, hidden. Yet God heard even the secret sound, and what was whispered in her spirit became Isaac, the child of promise. God hears the unspoken as clearly as the spoken. Your whispered word at night may seem insignificant, but heaven registers it like thunder. History gives us countless examples. George Washington Carver, a man born into slavery, had almost nothing, yet he whispered a single word in his prayers. Wisdom. He asked God for wisdom in the quiet of his nights, never boasting of his requests to men. In time, his hidden faith was rewarded with divine insights that turned peanuts into over 300 products. He became a pioneer, a scientist, and an advisor to presidents, all because God honored what he whispered in the dark. The reward of hidden faith is not only in external success, it is also in inner transformation. A woman who nightly whispered peace testified that after months of battling depression, she woke one morning and realized her soul was calm for the first time in years. No applause, no fanfare, no audience, just a quiet miracle birthed from hidden faith. Even psychology affirms this principle. Studies show that affirmations repeated before sleep are absorbed by the subconscious more deeply than at any other time. The subconscious cannot distinguish between reality and declaration. What you feed it consistently becomes the foundation of your beliefs. And your beliefs shape your actions, which shape your destiny. That is why those who whisper faithfully at night eventually live visibly transformed lives by day. But the greatest reward is not simply material or emotional. It is spiritual intimacy. When you whisper a word in faith each night, you are not just programming your subconscious, you are communing with God in trust. You are saying, "Lord, you are my audience. You are my witness. You are my rewarder." And God delights in honoring those who trust him in the dark. Jesus prayed alone in secret places. His strength in public flowed from his intimacy in private. In the same way, the word you guard and repeat in the silence of your nights will become the strength you walk in during the brightness of your days. Imagine the moment when the very thing you whispered becomes undeniable reality. The healing you declared is visible. The provision you repeated is tangible. The peace you long for floods your home. The breakthrough you guarded in silence becomes a testimony that cannot be denied. And when others marvel, you will know. It all began with a hidden word, whispered in the dark, honored by God in the light. So do not be discouraged if nothing seems to change right away. Seeds do not sprout overnight, but the God who hears in secret is faithful. Your whispered word is not wasted. Your hidden faith is not ignored. Your consistency is not forgotten. The day will come when the word you buried will bear fruit, and all will see what God has done. The reward of hidden faith is this: heaven's public honor for what you trusted in silence. And that is why you must never stop whispering. Because one day, the darkness will give way to light, and the word you guarded will become the life you live. When you whisper that one word before you sleep, you are not simply calming your mind. You are activating a law that aligns heaven and earth on your behalf. Words are not just sounds, they are spiritual codes. They move beyond the physical realm into the unseen, where angels respond and creation adjusts itself to fulfill God's design. The book of Genesis tells us that the world itself was framed by words. Let there be light, and light came rushing in. Notice, God didn't need an army. He didn't need tools. He didn't even need time. He only needed a word. If the universe was built on words, then the universe still responds to words. And the word you choose to whisper before sleep becomes a magnet, drawing resources, favor, and opportunities into your path. Think of it this way. When you set a GPS at night, the journey begins even while you're asleep. In the same way, your whispered word is like setting the coordinates of your destiny. You may close your eyes, but heaven is already moving. Earth is already shifting, and situations are already preparing themselves to match the word you released. Real life testimonies prove this. A man once began whispering the word provision each night. Months later, unexpected doors opened. An investor offered him capital, and a new business was born. Another woman whispered healing while battling illness. She testified that not only did her strength return, but her family relationships, broken by years of stress, also began to mend. One word aligned her body, mind, and family with divine order. But alignment requires agreement. If you whisper one word at night, but live in contradiction during the day, the alignment breaks. That is why consistency, integrity, and discipline are essential. Whisper peace, but also walk away from strife. Whisper prosperity, but also work with excellence. Whisper healing, but also honor your body. In doing so, you create a seamless bridge where your word